We heard that Ike was coming. Then we started getting word of the storm surge, that there was this huge storm surge coming.
The last words he said were, "Godspeed, Chambers County." And that's when I thought, what am I doing here?
But I didn't have any real clue of what I was about to go through.
I felt like I was watching a movie take place outside my window.
My husband would go outside and I panicked because the wind almost pushed him off the rail.
She's screaming at the top of her lungs. The water's rising and she doesn't know what to do. And I'm hearing the wind. I can hear the water.
I heard all these things hitting underneath the house. That's when I got scared. I was crying and I walked around my house. I said, "We're walking dead people. I'm waiting. I'm standing here walking around knowing I'm going to die in this storm tonight." Still so hard and we couldn't go outside. It seemed like forever. It was really, really hot because, like I said, we had lost the generator. It was so sweltering hot that I needed air, and you couldn't open the windows. It was hot, it was sweaty. If you even opened the door a little tiny bit, it was like a water hose just gushing in, so you couldn't. I'd ruin my house. It was a miserable, long, long, long night. I wish I could have just gone to sleep, but there was no sleeping in that.
Once the daylight appeared and you could really see what was going on, and of course anytime a storm hits at night, it's twice as scary as it is during the day. And once the sun came up, noticed, the tremendous amount of flooding that you could see from the top story of the courthouse over the land, knew right then there was going to be big issues in our county. Obviously had no idea that Galveston County had lost such a huge community off of the peninsula. I was able to get out of the courthouse and then see with my own eyes really what had happened. And that's when it just kind of kicks you in the gut and you realize, wow, this is what it had to have looked like after the 1900 storm. Received word at the courthouse that there had been a survivor.
Heather and Tom both visit with survivors and all have harrowing tales to tell.
One of our deputies heard him hollering as they drove by. They heard a gentleman hollering for help. One of the stories that one of them told was he was in a van trying to get off of the peninsula and the water had just overtaken 87. He couldn't go, so he parked his van, got in a house which was up on stilts, on piers, and the water took the house. This is the guy that rode a couch for a while. Then he rode lumber. I mean, there was debris everywhere. He was face to face with an alligator on some of the debris that he had climbed up on. He wasn't sure he was going to let the alligator stay there. I mean, he was fighting for his life too,
As for the survivor Heather visits, he bears many physical marks from enduring the storm.
First of all, his appearance was something that's just etched in my mind. He looked like from the cast of a television show that they are stranded on a desert island and had ant bites, fire ant bites everywhere and swollen and
eaten up by ants. Fire ants were floating, cruising through fire ant beds constantly, and they were covered with ant bites.
He shared with me that he had some military experience and some survival training. I think one of the most interesting things to me was that he was at one point hanging on to the top of electricity poles. I'm very familiar with that land, and so just to think of how tall those poles were, that's how high the storm surge was. And the thoughts of him telling me all about how houses were floating by or roofs. He couldn't really tell what it was. It was night. He knew it was lumber and he held on.